The appointment of the apostles. And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power over unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. Then follow the names of the apostles. These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as ye go, preach, saying, The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. Provide neither gold, nor silver, nor brass in your purses, nor scrip for your journey, neither 2 coats, neither shoes, nor yet staves, for the workman is worthy of his meat. And into whatsoever city or house ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till ye go thence. And when ye come into an house, salute it, and if the house be worthy, let your peace come on it, but if it be not worthy, let your peace return to you. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, when ye depart out of that house or city, shake off the dust of your feet. This passage differs in a few particulars from those which correspond to it in St. Mark and St. Luke. The calling of the apostles is separated by both of them from their designation to their work. Our Lord's commands to them are much more minute and detailed in the 10th chapter of St. Matthew than in the 6th of St. Mark and in the 9th of St. Luke. Some of them are transferred by St. Luke to the 70 disciples. But the words which I have quoted, with the exception of those respecting the Gentiles and the Samaritans, belong to all three. I do not know that it is necessary to dwell on the importance which the evangelists evidently attach to this commission. Everyone feels it and admits it. It would be the greatest waste of time to argue or to prove that our Lord speaks to his apostles constantly as the heralds of a kingdom, as men entrusted with spiritual powers, as men who are to be the founders of a society, as men whose immediate task was to be the precursors of infinitely higher tasks which were to be committed to them hereafter. All this, it will be said, is just what we might have expected. It is an ex post facto list of directions. The evangelists wrote with the experience of what the apostles had done. They antedated events which they themselves had possibly witnessed or which were handed down to them. What I wish to remark is simply that this narrative is in exact keeping with all that has gone before. John the Baptist came announcing that a kingdom was at hand. Our Lord preached, "The kingdom of heaven is at hand." The 12 were sent forth with the same message. The kingdom which John announced was evidently a kingdom over the spirit of man. He said that the person who came after him would baptize with the Spirit. All the acts by which Christ is said to have testified of his kingdom were acts of spiritual power, acts of dominion over spirits. The same powers are said to be committed to the apostles for the same purpose. Everything certainly in the tone of thought, in the deliberate, and in the accidental expressions of the evangelists, where they agree and where they vary, intimate a settled persuasion in their minds that they are describing the acts of a ruler, of one who had ruled in times past, and would give mightier evidence of his rule in the times to come, who had called out the 12 tribes to be his national witnesses, who was now preparing men who should at once represent those tribes, and should carry out the purpose for which they were chosen to all the families of the earth. There is no faltering in their statements on this subject, no occasional forgetfulness of this idea and substitution of another. It is the assumption that pervades the whole narrative. It is not forced on our attention anywhere. It makes itself felt everywhere. The Sabbath day. At that time Jesus went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were an-hungered, and began to pluck the ears of corn, and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. But he said unto them, Have ye not read what David did when he was an-hungered, and they that were with him, how he entered into the house of God, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests. Or have ye not read in the law, how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath, and are blameless? But I say unto you, that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if ye had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, ye would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day. And behold, there was a man which had his hand withered, and they asked him, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days? That they might accuse him. And he said unto them, What man shall there be among you, which shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, will he not lay hold on it and lift it out? How much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath days. The story of the cornfields and that of the man with the withered hand occur in all the three evangelists. Each one dwells with special emphasis on this, and the other complaints of the Pharisees respecting our Lord's neglect of the Sabbath day. All speak of it as the first great provocation, which led them to hold a council against him that they might destroy him. St. Mark says this was the occasion on which he looked round on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts. St. Luke recurs again and again to the subject. The first narrative is in his 4th chapter, the next in the 13th, the third in the 14th. Considering the brevity of the evangelical histories, it is surprising how much space is devoted to this subject, and how much the writers seem to have felt that it was necessary to the illustration of our Lord's life. But why should this be so? The Sabbath was undoubtedly one of the most memorable Jewish institutions. Supposing there was a Pharisaical excess of extravagance in the observation of it, might we not have expected a great teacher to have pointed out the equal or greater danger of the opposite tendency to which the Sadducees probably were liable? This was no case of a tradition of the elders, it was a positive commandment, like that of honoring father and mother. And yet the whole weight of the example and authority of Jesus seems thrown into the scale of permission and toleration, which we might suppose would be already the heaviest. The Son of Man, says St. Matthew, is Lord also of the Sabbath day. The Sabbath was made for man, says St. Mark, not man for the Sabbath, therefore the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. St. Luke repeats the last words, connecting them directly with the act of David in eating the showbread. Here we have an explanation supplied by the evangelists themselves of the importance which they attach to these dialogues. He who had instituted the Sabbath day, he of whom it had testified, was come to assert his own dominion over it, to declare what he had meant by it. That lordship was denied by the Pharisees, that meaning was wholly set aside. It was not an error of excess. It was a dreadful, fatal contradiction of the whole nature and essence of this commandment, and of all the commandments. They had no feeling that the Sabbath was meant for man. How could they enter into the force of the words, Thou shalt rest, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the stranger that is within thy gates? What cared the Pharisee for the manservant, or the maidservant, or the stranger? What they cared for was the day, abstractedly, nakedly, divested of all its life and associations. To it the manservant, the maidservant, the stranger, were to be sacrificed. Then how could they look upon the Son of Man, who had come as the King and deliverer of manservants and maidservants and strangers, as the Lord of this day? How could they welcome such a person at all, coming with such an object, while their whole spirits were concentrated in the mere husk of the institution? I say the husk, not the letter, for they could not read the letter. The letter witnessed against them. It spoke of the relation between man and God, of God sharing man's labor, and of man sharing God's rest. It proclaimed the very truth which the Pharisees were denying when they called Christ a blasphemer. All the latent inhumanity, as well as the real atheism of the Pharisee, lay wrapped in his feelings about the Sabbath day. Was it wonderful that he should hold a council against Christ for the acts and words which brought these feelings to light? Was it wonderful that the holiest and divinest anger should have been awakened by the awful contradiction of men turning the commandment of God into a practical denial of him. But all this profound morality is inexplicable. All this wonderful assertion of the principle which the Pharisees were undermining is reduced to nothing if the Gospels were not, as they pretend to be, primarily and throughout, the history of a Son of God and a King of men.